Welcome to Love Lattes, the podcast designed for women who are ready to stop settling and start living a life full of authentic love, confidence, and real connection. I'm your host, Victoria, the self-love scientist, speaker, and coach, and I'm here to help you reclaim your power, deepen your relationships, and fall unapologetically in love with yourself. So grab your tea, your latte, or your favorite beverage, and let's get started.
What if I told you most relationships don't end because of one big betrayal, but because of 1,000 small moments that were neglected? Have you ever felt like your partner is right there next to you, but you actually feel alone? It is a shitty feeling, babes. But I have some good news. We are going to talk about those shitty things. We're going to talk about 3 things that can go quietly, but powerfully ruin your relationship if you're not paying attention. At the same time, I know you're thinking like, oh my God, this is so sad. This is not like Love and Lattes. Love and Lattes is to talk about all aspects of love, even the hard parts. So we are going to also address these 3 silent but deadly behaviors that can ruin your relationship with also the solutions. This is an invitation to look deeper and for you and your partner or anyone you're dating or someone you know who might be going through this to notice those small things and learn how you can reconnect before these little things become big things and then it might be too late. So, very appropriate when I'm recording this episode. It is a rainy, chilly day, a day before Halloween. Do you have a boo? Are you a boo yourself? Very exciting. I'm going to stop with the Halloween stuff now because we're going to get into something pretty serious. Let's start with the first one. And as we address every single one of these small things that could ruin your relationship, I do want to preface that this is something that I'm addressing and I'm speaking to you from the heart. I'm speaking to you as if you are my friend. And whether or not you take this with a grain of salt or you know someone who could better from this, it is so important. So grab a pen if you're driving, just take a listen, go back. And as we go through each one can become deeper or harder. It just depends. Everybody is different. So let's get into it. Let's start with number 1, laziness. Love is an action. And I need you to sit with this and recognize, yes, love is a feeling, especially when you start out like all the butterflies and the warm fuzzies and I can feel the L on the tip of my tongue. But this is something where laziness is a behavior that can kill your relationship. When was the last time you and your person had a date, right? And I'm not saying like, it has to be the 5-star dinner. I mean, if it is, go girl, fuck it up. I'm saying, when was the last time you guys had quality time, right? Quality time is the effort. If this is where, we all know that being in a relationship is a choice, but when you're no longer choosing, you're being lazy. And everybody has the love language of quality time. So again, love isn't just a feeling, it is an action that, it's not something that it's not going to be done by itself, right? So again, I want you to ask yourself, when was the last time you planned something for you and your person? Um, when was the last time you had a moment where you actually just saw each other? Because the thing is, laziness in love shows up when we stop putting in effort. And the reason why we might be holding back is because we assume that our partner will always be there. It starts leaking in when it's like, I'm too tired or it's not a good time or I don't have time becomes normal. And I want to address that people have bad days. People run low on energy. Sometimes it's not 100, sometimes it's 75-25, right? But when the intentional connection is no longer an intention, it is no longer a choice, but it's becoming an option. It's more of like when it's convenient, that is when laziness will leak in. You might be feeling this, right? Maybe you're sitting there thinking like the silence to your person is content, but it is not content for you. And you are allowed to address your needs. Don't worry, we're going to get into that one. So here's the thing. When love is not tended to, it withers. Think of like a flower or a plant. It's not like it's going to die, right, overnight. Like, oh, I'm not really good with plants. Every time I get them, they die. How it depends, your love in the relationship will depend on whether or not you are neglecting it or allowing it to grow, right? But if you neglect it long enough because you're choosing laziness or you're experiencing laziness in your relationship, it will wither. So, what is the solution for this? How can we avoid laziness? And again, this is to address whether or not this is something you might have been noticing. Just really think about it. If you're dating, you're like, huh, it has been a while since we've actually spent some real time together. Or when was the last time you did something thoughtful for your person just because you wanted to remind them that they matter? And when was the last time you experienced that for yourself? You know? This is important to recognize that, you cannot be the only one putting in the work, right? So I know what you're thinking. Okay, Victoria, I think I am experiencing laziness in the relationship. And again, it happens. Relationships have the ups and downs. It's just a matter of like, has this been going on for a while? Was it just a day where I was like, I'm sorry, I can't meet you right now? And that is okay. This is important to think about. Start really evaluating your relationship. Think about when the last time you actually did something thoughtful or you noticed that they did something thoughtful for you. It's important. And that leads us into the next one. Maybe you're thinking, huh, well, if they wanted to, they would. Well, sometimes you need to tell them. And that's what number two is. So, number one, laziness can ruin your relationship. Number two, lack of true, authentic communication can ruin your relationship. Okay, so I'm not just saying like we talk all the time or, they text me when whatever, blah, blah, blah. I'm talking about vulnerable communication, the kind where you feel safe to say the hard things. Think about it. Has there been a recent situation where you felt unsafe or unseen in expressing your true feelings? Or maybe you are noticing like, hey, things have been a little off lately and you want to express this because it is important to address these things and nip it in the butt so that you and your person can learn how to grow from this. That's what a relationship is all about. It's about understanding one another. Maybe you have thought about this and you shut down because you don't want to start a fight and there's a fear. Maybe you told yourself it's not a big deal, but guess what, babe? It is. It is a big deal. Because if you don't address what truly feels important to you or something that may have hurt you, and it could be completely unintentional, you're going to sit there and replay this over and over. And that is how resentment builds very quietly, slowly. And then one day you won't even be sure how to talk about the big things anymore. And real couples, they don't run away from conflict. They want to know how to repair it. So your person is going to want to know if something is truly hurting you or upsetting you or holding you back. It is important to talk through it and not around it. So when it comes to having communication, I want to say that there is never the right time. But there are times where you may want to, think about when to express these things. If you're in the vehicle, probably not a good time to talk about your feelings. Sorry, but driving can be difficult and very distractive. In the bedroom, absolutely not. Because again, we'll get into this in a minute, but that is where intimacy in a safe space is supposed to be. And if there is conflict, you're going to want to be in an open space like your kitchen or on a couch. So, how do we get around this lack of true communication? When something feels off and you want to discuss this with your person, first begin by writing everything down. Allow yourself to freely write, speak, record, get it all out first, because sometimes there might be something more underlying, right? Could it be that, you have this high expectation of them? Have you addressed this before? Was there a time they made you feel unsafe? And when the time is right, after you've done this part, you look over the things. If there's patterns, tell them it's like, hey, I know things have been busy. I know things have been hard. I really would love to, you know, speak with you on some things that are important to me. And the people who love you will make the time. Again, couples will work through this and not around it. So when you are speaking, try using I feel statements instead of you always or you never, because that creates a lot more tension when you start blaming others. And again, unfortunately, like it could be a situation where you're pouring in a lot and it's not coming back. So it does feel like you want to attack, but they're going to take that and that's going to turn into something like rejection, shame, or guilt. But just addressing how you feel, that tiny shift is going to open the door to understanding instead of getting defensive. So your person can be like, oh, I never realized how important this was to you. Or they could realize that perhaps that small thing that turned into something big is, that they're going to take that to heart. They're never going to want you to feel that way. So they will do their best with their actions to show up for you. And for anyone listening, if you're on the other side of this conversation, and again, communication goes both ways. It is important for both people to address things when they need to. However, if your person comes up to you and says, I need to speak with you on something, give them the space and their time. They absolutely deserve it. If you love them, listen. Okay. It is so easy and it's, I think one of the things I hear most often is like every time I try to talk to them, they get defensive or they cut me off. And the worst thing is if you interrupt your person or you take their feelings and turn it into something to where they're apologizing, you're compromising them. You're hurting them even more. You're supposed to be their safe space. So you need to actively listen. This means put your phone down, look at them, listen. Because if this person means so much to you, what they're saying, you're going to want to take into consideration. And you're a human being. Nobody's perfect. Maybe you're like, oh shit, my bad. It's okay. They may not even be looking for an apology. They just need to get something off their chest. Wouldn't you want the same? Wouldn't you want the same? And here's the real thing. Um, I've noticed this, in a couple of comments recently that people just don't feel like, oh, I can't do that. If you don't feel safe being honest or speaking to your person, which could be for a variety of reasons, there needs to be something addressed, or you may no longer be in the space or capacity for that person. A relationship is meant to grow. And again, you will not know this until you try. And for the person listening, this is not a form of they're attacking you. They just want to address something because they care about the capacity for your love to thrive, right? Ooh, communication gets me so excited. But it's really important. And again, these things these are just, we're going through only three things. We're not even getting into the nit and gritty of what we should be talking about. That could be another episode. So I'm going to lead us, so far we've talked about, so we're getting into like the three things that could be ruining your relationship. One, laziness. You're just not trying anymore. You've accepted, contentment and you're allowing people to step over you, blah, blah, blah. Number two, lack of true communication. So you're like, just holding on. And this is where resentment builds, and nothing will get resolved if you don't speak to the things that matter to you. So, number three, and this one is a silent killer, emotional disconnection. When you start living parallel lives instead of sharing a life, the intimacy, the emotional intimacy is going to fade. This looks like not checking in. This means you're no longer curious about each other. You're not giving into each other's love languages, even the small things. You start becoming, if you live together, your roommates, or you're speaking to each other on shorter terms. You're just not partners anymore. You're emotionally distant. And this will happen before the physical distance. Emotional disconnection doesn't happen because two people stop loving each other. It just happens because they stop showing each other. They just stop showing up for each other. They're no longer curious. And these are two, now you're in your own emotional world and they're in their emotional world. Now, when it comes to a relationship, when you're with someone, there's you, there's your person, and there's the relationship. So you're allowed to have your own life, they're allowed to have their lives, but then you have your lives together. And if this emotional disconnection is happening, that means less physical affection. You're having shorter conversations. See how the communication is a part of this? You're avoiding deeper topics. Maybe you're choosing distractions like shopping, eating, or TV binging over intimacy. And see, the thing is, emotional disconnection can happen from a lot of things. This is a build, this is something that could abruptly happen. A lot can be from emotional fatigue. We can get so caught up in surviving that we forgot to nurture what connects us to our person, right? So imagine like what was the thing that brought you guys together in the first place, right? It was that emotional safety and the sex and, the way they made you feel. But then emotional distance can be the thing that like really does, like it just sours everything up. So the solution to this is, how do I reconnect the emotional connection, right? Well, what was the thing that made you feel emotionally connected in the first place? Find that gap, right? Most of the time, it's all about presence, not gifts. No, I'm saying presence, right? It's looking your partner in the eye and saying, how are you really doing? Notice that communication. It's noticing when they seem off and choosing to reach out instead of withdraw. Because again, love needs a little bit of touch. It needs a little bit of nurturing. It's these micro movements of real, authentic connection. You know, they're the small things that are going to build up that emotional wealth in a relationship. Emotional connection can be rebuilt if you are willing to do the work. This work doesn't have to be hard. And if it does feel hard for you, you really need to consider your relationship. If things fall off, which they do, emotional connection can be built up again by those small things. Okay, so here's something you can try. You can even do this tonight. Sit down with your partner, and I want no phones, no TV. Just ask each other, what's been on your heart lately? How are you really doing? Notice how I am asking these questions about them. I'm not making it about us. I'm not making it about, myself. I'm making it about them. Because when someone finally feels safe or just you open up that capacity for someone to feel seen, you'd be surprised how that could shift your relationship. And again, listen, don't fix, don't get defensive, just listen. Because again, just allowing someone to speak, and I know this from my own private practices and coaching, when people feel safe enough to express what's on their mind, on their hearts, you'd be surprised that they might even find the solution. It could be something like, they could be drowning in their own shit and they just don't know how to ask for help and they've never been in a healthy relationship before. It could be, I miss you and I feel very distant because X, Y, and Z. And again, they're not trying to attack you. They may not know it, but it is so much better to get it out there. So you want this to work, right? Then you will do these things. So, in essence, we've highlighted three things that can ruin your relationship. Let's make sure we understand how to repair because, again, these are small. Do you notice how, this might sound simple, but I'm here to tell you, this is real shit. So let's talk about let's kind of review a few ways to overcome these things. And again, I'm going to start with the biggest one, emotional disconnection. Because when you're with each other, you deserve to be fully present. Emotional connection is based on that. People are smart. They'll know when you're actually with them and not. It's like I'll go to a restaurant and I'll look around and I'll see people are on dates, but then they're on their phones. That's not a date. That's a convenience. When you put in that quality time, are you sitting down and putting the phone down and actually having an intriguing, fun conversation? Can you let your guard down and express the things that are on your mind? Maybe it maybe you just want to talk about your job. Maybe you want to talk about the state of the economy or politics, whatever the fuck you want to talk about. Because sometimes in the busy schedule of our lives, it might be hard to find the right time to do this. But it is so imperative that you schedule it before you go to sleep because your partner may not realize how much you're caring. You may not know how much they're caring. And if they don't feel the capacity to connect with you, this is going to get a lot worse. I'm not saying you have to address this in the bedroom or maybe right before bed, but I'm saying address this as soon as possible. Let's kind of go back again to the communication part because, as you can see, if you cannot speak to your partner about something, that emotional safety is gone. And quite frankly, you may feel like you shouldn't be there in the first place. You need to reevaluate, when was the last time you had this connection? Like, what is it that you guys love doing together? When was the last time you did something you loved together and actually felt that connection? It's not going to be, sometimes people think, oh, well, we did this thing and it still didn't work. This is going to take consistency. Relationship is choice and consistency. You know, it's not just, oh, I choose them because I'm not cheating. No, no, no. A relationship is about you chose to love them and love them in the ways that they need to be loved. Okay, not the ways you want to be loved. Think about that. That's a big one. So think about the last time you guys had maybe a date night, or maybe this could be an opportunity to talk about that. Like, hey, I've noticed it's been a while and I don't feel as connected as I'd love to be. And I'd really like to find a workaround. Like, get specific. It's okay to be specific in addressing what you need. And your person will listen and understand and want to work on this with you. And if they don't, you'll know. You will know. The biggest thing to recognize is that love can be a fleeting feeling. And it is possible to save your relationship if that's what you want. At the same time, I will advise for you to take notice. And again, for anyone listening, you know, and maybe you notice or you hear your friend talking about this, please take note. It is very important to see how frequent are you pouring yourself or getting lost in the sauce of this relationship? Because relationships are all about reciprocation, right? I did say that sometimes, some days, you're going to be the one that has to pull the full weight. You have to put your big girl panties on and do a little bit more. And then you also, you might fall back and your person needs to show up for you, right? A relationship is a team effort. You can't be the only one asking questions, even though you deserve the answers. You deserve to be with someone who makes you feel emotionally safe. These are just three things, honey. And I have to say that if these three things, the laziness, the lack of true communication, and the emotional distance, these are, let's see, that's verbal, that's emotional, and laziness is like a physical, like by your actions and stuff. So all these things, whether you have an issue with one or all three, it's usually a combination. This is going to affect intimacy too. I would, I would guarantee, and I'm very confident that anyone struggling in these realms are having a disruption in intimacy. You can have sex. Absolutely. It's a physical thing. But are you having the kind of deep intimacy that fulfills you and makes you feel good, that allows you to let everything go so you can orgasm, or because you look at your person, you want to go down on them? Like, this is going to interrupt your intimacy. We aren't perfect. I do want to reiterate that we may not be perfect beings, but you can sure as hell make the effort to try and be in your own version of, you have to want this to work, right? You need to understand your values of what a relationship are. People are human. We get sidetracked. There are things that are happening outside of our control, but your intentions for the long haul are important and your voice matters. If you love someone, you'd want to, get to the bottom of everything. You're going to want to apply these practices and notice, see if there's anything different. Is the relationship getting better? Or, again, these are silent killers. Can you talk to them? Are you leaving these things unaddressed because you think they're going to come to you? I'll let you know right now, this is not about waiting. This is about addressing things that are important. You cannot wait for someone to come to you. Your person cannot read your mind. And perhaps they might be feeling the same too. So if you want to share this episode and be like, hey, I absolutely love this podcast, and I think you might really enjoy it too, because things have been a little whatever it is lately. You never know. And they actually might be like, you know what? I do think we should sit down and talk about a few things. Because people who are in love, love again is the way we decide and choose to show up. And there are days where it's like I'm not available, and that's okay too. It's the constant, they aren't available, but they're available for other things, right? That's something you want to pay attention to. If you leave these things unaddressed, if you're not even willing to try, if you're noticing like, yeah, the relationship does feel lazy, I can't remember the last time we actually had a good time, or I still have this on my heart, but I'm too scared to talk to them. There's something deeper there, and there will be consequences, and you might end up just it, the thing is, it is so easy to walk away from something because some people feel like that'll solve the problem, and it really doesn't. If you do not address these things immediately, or, give it time, it might not be at the right time if it's like in the midst of a disagreement, but there will never be a right time. But you will know when it's like, I really got to talk to this. Like, I got to speak on this. Because it is possible that, it could be a misunderstanding, it was not their intention, and you deserve to know. And then your relationship can thrive, can bloom, and can grow. And then you're like, oh my God, like I can't imagine, my life without anyone else. Or right now, things feel really good. And that is the best place to be. Relationships have ups and downs, right? I have learned that there are times where it's not going to be the luxury hotel dinners and cocktails. It's not going to be a trip here or there. But then there are the moments of like, I'm going to have to show up a little bit more. And then there might be a time where my person has to pull through as well. There is but the whole concept of this is like being in a relationship is a choice. Being in love and using love is a choice. It is an action. And these three things that can and if you neglect it, they will. They will ruin your relationship. And nobody wants to be in a relationship where they're walking on eggshells or they feel neglected, they feel unsafe. That is not how relationships grow. And things that are avoided turn into poor behaviors. And again, these were only three things, and these are quiet. These are quiet, especially that last one is a quiet killer. If you are feeling stuck, I know we covered a lot today, and I'm so proud of you for listening. But if you are feeling stuck and you are struggling, whether it's in your relationship or maybe you came out of one and these were some things that are coming up for you, shoot me a message. I work on relationships with women, with men all the time, and I'd be happy to go a little bit deeper with you. So, what an episode! I know it's a little different, but I have to be honest with you. This is a time period where people often, people are in relationships, people are getting out of relationships. And I've noticed the biggest thing is we don't communicate as much, or he was becoming distant. And then I started noticing like that love wasn't just, the feely goods, right? It was the actions that were taken, like what things were being done in the relationship to keep it going. And when I asked around, like what keeps these couples all together? And it's the willingness and the choices and the conversations when it was appropriate. They said, do not sweep it under the rug because it will become a buildup over time. And eventually it's dismissed or you're disconnected. And let me tell you, sex is supposed to feel good. And if you are uncomfortable or you're not feeling connected with your person, it is so unfair to be in that space with them because they might be thinking everything is fine. So please go back, revisit the three things that could be ruining your relationship. That's laziness, lack of true communication, and emotional disconnection. And please understand that the things we talked about, feed into each other. And there are ways to work around it. And it all starts with how you want to address and take action moving forward. If you've really enjoyed this episode, share it, speak about it, comment, tag me on Instagram. I love it. I would love to hear that. But also share it with people who you think are also struggling. It is so easy to step away or run away, and I'm using air quotes here, to walk away from something because it suddenly feels like it's inconvenient. Addressing hard things will never feel convenient, but you cannot grow as a person or grow in a relationship if you don't address these things soon. Awesome. All right. Thank you so much for listening, babes. I hope you have a fantastic and fabulous day. The weather is getting a little cold around here, so please stay warm, treat yourself, and understand that anything you have, or if it feels important and it deserves to be addressed, you should be addressing it. And you deserve to be with someone who wants to listen. Relationships grow on action. Think about how the flower analogy I said earlier. Love is like a plant. You got to nurture it little bits. And these little things, just kind of think, I know I'm just like everywhere right now, but like think about how those little things that made you fall in love with this person, like those were little things. It was like, oh, the way he made me feel seen and always wanted to listen and just wanted to talk. And those are little things that are going to turn into big things if they're not addressed. All right. Have the best day, and I will see you in the next episode.